Hi everybody, this is Anne. This week I've been experimenting with slip decoration on greenware. I wanted to try and demonstrate multiple slip-related pottery techniques to make a unique piece. Let me show you what I came up with. The first thing I had to do was make a form to use as my blank canvas. This design was a version of the hand-built bonbon box from the video link above. First I needed to make the white slip. The easiest way to do this was to save my clay scraps. In this case, I used standard brand porcelain number 365 and let it totally dry out. The bone-dry clay is easier to pound into smaller bits. I portioned out the clay so I'd have enough for all my colors that I'll be using for this project. For this batch, I measured out 100 grams and then added a quarter cup of water to begin the slaking down process. I stirred it around trying to break up the clay bits, adding more water as it was absorbed. About 15 minutes later, I ended up with a slip about the consistency of a smooth, thinned-down yogurt. For this project, I also needed slip mixed with several mason stains. This stain is number 6300 Mazarin. The more stain you add to the slip, the darker it will get. I'll start with 3 grams of stain to 100 grams of porcelain. That way, if the color's not dark enough, I can always add a little bit more. I recommend testing your slip colors in a firing before committing them to projects. Now this is the blue color I'm looking for. Now if you don't have mason stains, but you have underglazes available, you can mix slip with that too. In this case, the bright red mixed with the white slip will make a cool pink color. I started with a batch of white slip, and then I poured in just a little underglaze at a time until I achieved the pink color that I wanted. Now that I had all my colors ready to go, I was ready to start decorating. I started by using removable vinyl paper to make decal resists. I wanted to cut out simple circles of different sizes. I had this circle punch to make the smaller circles. I found several other bigger size circles to trace around and hand cut. Now I just peeled the backing off, wet down the clay surface just a little, and then arrange the circles, making sure to rub them down tight to the surface with my fingers. Using a pencil, I drew a gridded line pattern across the surface. First I drew 2 horizontal evenly spaced lines like this. Then I drew evenly spaced vertical lines to continue the gridded pattern. Here are the first colors I'll brush on. They're both very cool, analogous colors. Using a wide flat brush, I painted the 3 layers of the green slip inside the lines around the pot. I let each layer dry before moving on to the next. You'll know when you have enough slip painted on it when you no longer have spots where you can see the clay underneath. I tried to make the slip coat as smooth and even as possible. Next, I switched to the blue slip and painted that in between all the gridded lines, following the same steps. Now, when the underglaze was still just a little damp, I peeled off the vinyl stickers and allowed the slip to dry until it was no longer tacky. Now with the red slip, I laid down several thick coats into the circle areas. I like to leave a little of the clay along the circle edge naked so that it highlights the area. With the muted black color, I painted the top edge and bottom edge of the piece with 3 layers to cap it off. Next, I added a little highlight to the red circles by putting a little dot of yellow towards the top of each one, like this. To me, the circles have become like little clovers, so I used a small brush to outline the circles and then attach them to stems connecting them to the bottom of the piece. When my lines were not as slim as I wanted, I used the needle tool to gently slim them down, like this. To go a step further, I thought the clovers needed to be connected, so I drew horizontal lines around the piece. To add a little more interest to the lines, I used a leather heart punch to imprint areas along that line, and then I used a small brush dipped in the muted black over the pencil lines. To add dimension to the hearts, I slip trailed the white slip into the positive areas of each heart. I thought it'd be fun to add dimension to the clovers as well. I tried to put the bigger dots in the center of the clovers and the smaller dots towards the outer edges to add perspective. Next, I added some wavy lines to add movement to the design. I took a ball-tip diamond core tool and carved shallow ditches along these lines. Since the size of the clover shapes seemed to read as being very uniformed, I thought the design needed a larger element to give it variety. I drew a couple of large circles behind the clover shapes. I scraped off the raised slip hearts and then coated the inside of the circle with thick slip layers like this. I wanted these to look like morning glories behind the clovers, so I painted thick blue lines on top of the white. That gives the piece variety and lifts the red clovers off the surface, adding perspective to the piece. Now here's the piece all ready for the bisque. This is the first time I've really tried to put all these techniques together into one piece. It really challenged me. I hope it inspires you to experiment with slip and incorporate some of these techniques into your own work. If you like our videos, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. I'll see you next time in the studio.